This conference will now be recorded.
Is it just my computer or others? I can't hear any voices.
Just yours.
You, Dale.
Just you, Dale. You got it turned on the top right. How does he know my question? He can't hear.
Exactly.
He must have just signed off. Yeah.
All right, he's gonna try. We'll give him a minute to try to sign back in, and then we'll get started if that's okay with everybody. See if Dale can get in. Hopefully everybody's staying warm in this nice cold weather.
Tracy, you asked Jason about Pan-Zero.
Sure. Jason, are we gonna have your presence forever, or do we have a new presence coming in named Jeff Panzier?
Yes, Jeff Panzier's been appointed to this committee. He had some conflicts for today, so he asked me to sit in for him.
Okay, great. Thank you for sitting in. We appreciate it. And we will miss you. We appreciate you being on the committee. And come back anytime you would like.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Dale, can you hear us? Can you hear us at all, Dale?
You might have to turn the volume up on this PC.
Yeah, I might have to go to the network.
Jeremy, can you email him or anything or text him?
Or call him, should I call him?
Unless he wants to try to call it or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Joan asked him if I was just calling.
Looks like Kyle's in the library. He's got a card catalog behind him.
My wife at one time worked for the school district. She worked in the facilities department.
Oh,
And when the library switched over to electronic records, we were able to purchase a couple of card catalogs pretty cheap. So we have pens and rulers and all kinds of little stuff in there.
he's organized.
Yeah.
My wife is organized. I would just have separate piles on the floor and the desk and in the closet.
I don't know if you have ever seen the bit on the Ellen DeGeneres show where they try to take these younger millennials they have to call like a mechanic, for example, for a muffler, and they have to use a rotary phone, and they don't know how to use a rotary phone. I'd be curious to know if anyone knows the Dewey Decimal System and if they could locate a book through a card catalog. That would be a good test.
That would be a good test.
I don't necessarily know that I should admit that, but I think I could.
Yeah, I think I could too. Yep.
I could too.
Yep, I remember that. Yep.
Our age.
Yes, exactly.
That's how we found things back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, U.S. history, World War II, that's going to be 723.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
All right.
okay, should we get started?
I don't know.
Okay. You guys, we'll get started. Dale, if you can't hear us, which you probably can't, call or whatever.
It all looks like it's hurting a little bit there.
I know.
Just kind of hanging.
Yeah.
So we'll call the meeting to order at 3:34. Roll call, please, Susie.
Sure. Randy Johnson,
Present.
Dale Schmidt, oh, he's here, but he can't hear us. I have Tracy Fluke,
Here.
Annette Ovinger,
Here.
Kyle Jago,
Here.
Jessica Atkinson.
Here.
And, okay, and Leroy Vogt is expected late.
Okay. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, everybody.
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands,
One nation,
Liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, a motion on the agenda. Any changes to the agenda, anybody? Or Rex, Joel? Hearing none, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Randy.
I'll second it.
Okay, moved and seconded. Any discussion, anybody? Otherwise, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carried for the agenda. Action on the minutes from our regular meeting on January 11th. Those are in your packet. Any corrections, any changes needed for the minutes? Hey, if there are none, I need a motion, please.
So moved. This is Kyle.
I'll second. This is Jessica.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, everybody. Comments from the public, I do not see, we do not have any public in here. So anything on anybody's end? That's not on the agenda. Nope. Okay. Move on to site plan review. Kyle, do you have anything to report from site plan review, please?
No, there really wasn't much that pertained to the bike and ped. There was a lot of interior work, and the stuff came for the school district resulting from the referendum, but most of that was interior work, air conditioning and stuff. So there really wasn't anything to report.
All right. Thank you. All right, so we're on to 8A, which is action item, update on Woodside Community Bicycle Grant application and potential sidewalk request. Jessica, I don't know if you would be able to start off on that and let us know what's up with your project and maybe give us more of the details on it and what you're trying to do.
Sure. So overall, for the grant that we had applied for just details on that, we applied to get a grant through Cycling Without Age. It's a program that is done across the state of Wisconsin, and it is for Tri-Straw bikes. So they are a type of e-bike that has a apparatus in the front of it that you can either back a wheelchair onto, or the person can be transferred into a chair. Some people, they do come in a form where there is not the backup motor to it, but with having the person in front, obviously, especially if you go even a little incline, it can be quite heavy. So the one that we applied for did have that in it. Essentially what you do is you're able to then transfer residents that right now are not able to get out and like go for like our walking clubs and things like that, that they're able to then go along, and you have either trained volunteers or our life enrichment team is who we brought in to be having the ones operate the equipment. They then are able to sit on the bike and then bring those residents around. Either whether that be around the campus, which is where the drawings came in for the potential adding to our sidewalks and paths we currently have, or bringing them down with our roadside bus to local trails to be able to take out onto that. So Appleton has a couple of facilities that do them there. A Booster is the biggest one that does it, and then Evergreen and Oshkosh, they have them, and then there's quite a few facilities in the Milwaukee and Madison area that have them for their residents. We would be the first one in the Green Bay area that has one. From a Woodside standpoint, we were looking and working with our insurance company that if we did get the grant, about changing our current path system to make it a little bit longer so that we would be able to take the residents around our campus on it, as opposed to being out like on our roadways, because our insurance company has concerns about our staff bringing residents out onto that. So in the map, I don't know, I think everyone has those in their packets. If you can kind of see where there's a blue line and then a yellow line, those were like the recommended areas when we did the application that they thought would be a good place to kind of extend. If you look where the blue is, we already have a blacktop path across that driveway. So to extend that across there, and then the yellow was the secondary, would be if possible to add in to go up to, all the way up to where that sidewalk then picks up, to connect that. So if they're on the trishaw, they would actually turn in most likely into that parking lot and then again stay on the path and come back up into our parking lot. But they had recommended that if we were going to be doing the sidewalks, to actually do the connect right all the way to the sidewalk, because we do still also have walking club and our seniors and staff even going through, that they said if we were going to go that far, just to write it all the way in for that too. So we did. Right now, they still have not given us any inclination as to when we'll know for sure if we would get the grant or not. And also if the grant would include the finances to do that sidewalk work. If it does not, especially with COVID and how that has greatly impacted our financial situation at Woodside, we definitely would not be able to be going forward with doing those path work and that side work ourselves. We would definitely have to table that until we could figure out a better time for us to financially do that. So then we would just be looking at getting the trishaw to bring to either bike paths or just use it in the paths that are on the left side of the campus that you can't really see in this picture here. To use it on our current existing path that's just a little smaller.
So the grant is more specific to the trishaws, getting those on hand and paying for those.
It also does, in the grant, you're able to write in if you needed additional like pathways and sidewalks for it. So we did write in for both, but it's not a all or none grant. So it kind of depends on how many people apply for it and how much money is there, and all of that plays into it. So.
And you don't know exactly when you're going to hear, Jessica?
We do not. They, because of COVID and it affecting long-term care, which the majority of people that apply for this grant are long-term care facilities, they extended the deadline for people to apply for the grant. So I believe that deadline got extended to February. So now it's finally, it's like reclosing now this month sometime. So they extended it a couple of months actually first. So we had ours in for a little while, but now we're waiting for that. So Amy, our marketing person, who's the one that wrote the grants with our wellness committee, she's hoping that they're still gonna get back to us like March, April to have that determination, because a lot of facilities are even for us. Like we said, if we were to move forward with this, there's a lot of things that have to get put into place for us to put sidewalks or pathways in that we would have to be going to the village with, and so not to mention getting bids and getting all of that done. So they're aware of that, and almost every facility that submits with the trishaw is submitting with some form of plant changes that need to happen to them, unless it's a facility that already currently has the trishaw program in place and they're just looking to add to their fleet.
So potentially, if you get the grant for the trishaws and you get the infrastructure with it, with all the work to put the infrastructure in, are you anticipating maybe building it in 2022?
Yeah, I don't think we'd be able to do it before then. I think that would just be a steep,
Too much.
steep to get done.
And then the yellow will also be a path versus a sidewalk, is that correct? Or is it
The yellow and the blue would be both be path, and then the yellow is more of the, once it gets past the second driveway, if you go down, coming from the corner down that, there's two driveways. Once it gets past the second driveway, that will then convert to sidewalk there. The top part that's yellow would be path also, the path width, but it would be wider like our other one that's across the driveway up on Anderson there. It's like 5 feet wide, I believe.
okay.
And it's black top. I don't know if that makes a difference.
Probably have to apply to Bill Carvin in the right of way if they wanted to connect it to the sidewalk. So that would be the best on the road.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so I guess the other question that I have on it, maybe it's more for Rex, is Is there a potential for this to be put in as we apply for like a Safe Routes to School grant or something to help out with this? Because it really does connect neighborhoods to school, especially with that cut through that's already there from Pilgrim Way and getting the kids on and off. Do you think it would be something that we could look into or that would potentially be a candidate for a Safe Routes to School grant?
Well, we did the sidewalk on Valley View, for by Valley View School. I can tell you that the standards quadruple your cost of the sidewalk.
Okay.
Just with the standards that are required, the federal standards for it. Oversight is, I don't even want to tell you what that went on. By Valley View School cost. It works out well. I mean, just what they require. So I guess, I mean, I can't speak. What was that? Maybe about 10 years ago, 8 years ago, give or take, we put in a piece of sidewalk from to the cul-de-sac. So because a lot of kids were taking their bikes and cutting onto that guy's driveway up to the duplex immediately to the west or east there. So they put in that spur to connect the two, and the thought was at the time that was the road wasn't used a lot, Bay Area place, so that by emptying them out basically into that cul-de-sac, they could walk along the curb line and cross the street, you know, basically over on Anderson. So I don't know how the village would feel about a sidewalk, only because of the traffic count on that street being what it is, which is very little.
But then just, oh, there you are. I'm like, where did Jessica go? You scooted over on the screen. I'm like, where'd she go? But for your project and what you're looking at, your insurance company is basically saying they don't want you on the street. So for your project, you would want to have that sidewalk or that pathway in there so that you can take advantage of it with your program. To try to cause. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess maybe when you hear anything, Jessica, about that, where you're at on it, if you'll let us know, and then we can see and hear what we could do to maybe partner in some manner or shape, and see if there's something that we could help out with on it. And then just go from there, and especially if it's a 2022, that gives us time to look into it further and see what other maybe grant sources, or if we can get it through the budget or whatever, to see if we can help with it, or if that's even, you know, viable on our part. So
Yep, that sounds good.
any other questions for Jessica, anybody, or anything else to add on this? What are your thoughts, anybody on this project and looking at helping out with this? Any comments on it? Good, bad, indifferent, what do you think?
I mean, however they get a path or sidewalk in there, I think it'd be a pretty neat thing for the residents to be able to be mobile like that. Going through the Trishaw, is that what it's called?
Trishaw, right, Jessica? Yep. Yeah.
That sounds pretty neat.
I know that we use that cut through a lot, my husband and I, going to the school and the community center, because we're coming from, you know, southern Ashwaubenon down Oneida Street, we cut through, and then we don't have to stay on Oneida so long. So that cut through, I'm sure, is used by quite a few people to get off Oneida Street and then be able to head north to the community center and the school and all of that. So I think you'd be impacting a lot more people by having that sidewalk there than just the seniors at the facility. Not that they shouldn't be accommodated, because they should, and it's a great program, and I think it's good for them to get out and move around, so.
Awesome.
Anyone else?
I think this is Randy. I think it's a great idea. If we don't get the grant, I mean, if Woodside doesn't get it for the walk, I would like to see us at least look at potential options, because I look at Woodside as quite a community neighbor.
Yep.
And I just talked to a lady about a week ago that lives at the Oaks. She's 97. She was a little hard last week to take her walk.
Mhm.
Help on these individuals. I mean, if you can give them a safer area to take a walk, just the Woodside community, I think that's so many benefits. And even from a community perspective, people know it's there. That makes a nice loop.
Yeah.
So,
It is nice if we can have that loop even for like our walking club. So right now we have a walking club that we actually bus them to different trails all the way from Howard to Pierre or Bear Creek. We do that spring to fall to just get them out to do it. But for some of our residents, just to have to take the bus to go do the walk is enough that they don't want to do it then. And they use the Parkville Trail, but a lot of them are afraid to walk on the streets in the areas where it connects just because it is busy. So I think it would be really nice, not only from the Trishaw standpoint, but just for that, our residents that kind of ambulate around the campus, trying to encourage them to get out and keep active. You know, it is a pretty big trail. I walk it at lunch sometimes. I do the whole loop of the 18 acres. And it's, you know, you can get a good little walk in just circling our campus. So yeah, it's nice.
I think it's very good. Thank you.
A lot of good work, it's a lot of work writing the grant, Jessica, so thank you.
I can't take credit for it, but thank you.
I figured that you had help, but it's still a lot of work, and it's.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah, I'm with Randy. You know, the idea that we don't live there, so it doesn't affect us as much, but someday I may live there, and those people that do, right? That kind of thing's pretty important, so good for you.
Thank you.
All right, any other comments or suggestions for Jessica? Otherwise, please keep us in the loop and we'll see what we can do to help on our end. And, you know, we may have to take some other steps to see what we can do, but I think it's a great project and I'm really happy that you guys embrace that stuff. You've been really good on your campus. You got lots of great paths on there and it's just a great thing for your residents and everybody else. So
Thank you.
thanks for the update. Any other questions? Anybody in here?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so 8B is discussion and possible action on request to village board on snow and ice control policies. So Rex, Joel, anybody want to start with that or any info you want to share?
Yeah, I can share a little bit of information. Obviously, this is a carryover from the last meeting. The committee had decided that they wanted to put together a formal request to the village board to possibly review and revise its policy related to snow and ice control for sidewalks and trails in the community. I think the conversation kind of originated with the concept of the Packerland Trail, trying to maintain that throughout the winter. And then the conversation kind of evolved beyond that to include other areas because I think it was felt by staff and the committee that if we begin to maintain that trail, there will be others that kind of follow and we should take a more comprehensive approach to it. And then it was requested by the committee to kind of set aside time today to kind of review what your recommendation would be for the village board. One of the elements that came forward, and I just compiled this information today, so I'll kind of read it to you and then I can share it to the committee after today's meeting, about what other communities are doing and kind of the impacts that they have. So I surveyed our neighboring communities that we know have kind of some sidewalk and some other issues related to snow and ice control on trails. So I'll just kind of go through the numbers with you and then kind of set it based on that stage. So the village of Alloway has about 17 miles of trail, just over 17 miles of sidewalk. According to Brad Lang, the administrator there, they do not have any trails or side paths. Side paths are what I call kind of trails alongside roads. I'm not sure if that's the same nomenclature here in Ashwaubenon, but let's say a 10-foot wide trail or an 8-foot wide trail along a roadway as a side path from my viewpoint. And then how many of that mileage do you maintain? So we have 17 miles of sidewalk and an undisclosed amount of trails. For the sidewalks, they have a very goofy policy. So there are some of those sidewalks where the village maintains them every single snow event. There are some sidewalks, about half I would say, where the village only maintains it if it has an excess of 3 to 6 inches of snow. And then they go basically do all the sidewalks. Anytime there's more than 3 inches, they do all the sidewalks. So I've marked them down as all 17 are included in their listing. If they have less than 3 inches, then they require most of the adjacent property owners to maintain that. Again, very different policy. They did not indicate how many miles of trails or side paths they have alongside roads, but they did indicate within their park system that they maintain about 4 miles with snow and ice control. And they do have an ordinance, and when you get it, there'll be a link to their ordinance so you can see it. For Ashwaubenon, we have 27.4 miles of sidewalks in our community. Of that total, 13.5 are maintained by the village. The remainder is then maintained by the adjacent property owner. And then for trails and side paths, we have about 12.5 paved trails. We do have some trails in our park system that are unpaved. Of those 12.5 miles, we do not maintain any of those in the winter. And Rex, correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misspeaking, but that's the information that I believe Doug had mentioned.
Correct.
Where's I'm sorry, where's 12.6 from? Because I think when I had looked in the plan, it was 8.8 either. It's not updated, and it seemed like it had all the trails in it in the park plan.
So I think we have, let me pull that up here.
I'm thinking Doug is figuring on like all the trails within Sherwood Forest.
Which are all gravel and are not going to be maintained.
Correct.
Okay.
And same with Hidden Valley.
Yeah, same thing, gravel would not
Yeah, moving
maintain.
around in there, and Waterford. That's paved, but that's not
It
maintained.
hasn't been maintained. Yeah.
Based on Doug, he says we have about 15 miles of trails, of which 9.3 miles of asphalt multi-use trail.
Okay.
3.3 miles of paved trail within parks and 2.4 miles of unpaved trails within parks. So that 12.6 is just the paved aspect of it, according to Doug anyway.
Okay. So that includes the paved within the parks and maybe like Waterford and maybe Mike Van or whoever else.
Pioneer.
Pioneer, yeah. And then the 9.3 are ones that are out adjacent to roadways, not necessarily in parks. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so again, Alloway 17 miles, they maintain them for anything greater than 3 inches. Ashwaubenon has 27.4 miles of sidewalk and 13.5, or roughly half of our total is maintained by the village. The village of Bellevue has 74 miles of sidewalk. They maintain 5.68. Of that 74, they identified to me about 7 miles of multi-use trails, side paths. Now those are just those alongside a roadway. That does not include any park trails. And all of the side paths are maintained by the village. So they do end up maintaining all the side paths along the road. In De Pere, they have 167.76 miles of sidewalk, so considerable amount. They maintain 10.5 miles. Of that 167, of that 10.5, those are all along or adjacent to municipally owned properties. So City Hall, a water tower, a park, so on and so forth. They have about 9 miles of trails and side paths, and they don't maintain any of those. The Village of Hobart, 5.5 miles of sidewalk. They maintain 1.5 miles of that, and those are adjacent to municipally owned property or roundabouts, things of that nature. They have 4.25 miles of side paths or trails, and they maintain all of theirs. And then finally, Swamico, they only have 3.5 miles, a little over 3.5 miles of sidewalk. They don't maintain any of it. They have a little over 2.5 miles of trails or side path, and they maintain all of that. So there again, just kind of a mixed bag. I would say that those that have a higher volume of sidewalks obviously maintain much less by percentage than those that have fewer sidewalks. So like Ashwaubenon and Alloway, we're kind of on that mid to lower end. we tend to maintain a higher degree of sidewalks as the village. But as the mileage continues to increase, those other municipalities, they maintain less. So that
Joe, can I stop you for a second? So I don't know if you asked this question, but so I know you said De Pere municipal buildings and that. So who's doing the sidewalks by the schools? Are they maintained by schools, the school support staff there?
correct. Yep. So like in De Pere or even Bellevue for that matter, because there's one elementary school in Bellevue, those sidewalks are maintained by the school district themselves.
Okay, so
Whereas
in
here
all
we-
fairness,
Nice
in
agree-
Ashwaubenon, a lot of our sidewalk that you're cleaning is school.
Correct.
Just so I understand the differential. All right.
Rex, I'm not sure if Doug mentioned to you kind of the process, and maybe you can articulate it better than me regarding the procedure and the timing of snow removal on sidewalks around schools. If that's a high priority, so obviously those things are done before we even get to a lot of our other snow removal.
Yeah, obviously the first priority is the streets. The second priority, especially if it all depends if it's a weekday or a weekend, is to do the sidewalks and the parking lots in the school district as part of our joint use agreement with the district. So they go out and they do the considered the safe routes to school. That's done, about 3 in the morning is when they start doing that, typically if it snowed the day before, getting ready. So it's a fairly high priority, is the sidewalks for the school district. That, because of that, because that's the number one priority, sometimes that backs up some of the other work that needs to be done in terms of other potential plowing activities, because you need to make sure that your kids in the community get to the school safely. So that's usually one of the first things that's done with the trackless and the clean machines that we have that do that smaller work, from what I understand.
Most of the municipalities that we surveyed, our neighbors here, have a 24-hour requirement to have snow and ice removed after the end of a snow event. The exception to that would be De Pere, where theirs is 48 hours. So that's another impact as to how we, schedule and time maintenance.
Did you ask by any chance how if a sidewalk isn't cleared, what that process is? If their staff is going out to look, or if they're just doing it on people calling in complaint only? Did you happen to think about asking that at all?
I did, and so the vast majority of them are dealing with it on a complaint basis. The exception to that would be De Pere, just as it relates to like safe routes to school type stuff. So they have most of the other municipalities don't really have a code enforcement officer, so they just kind of deal with it as the calls come in. And then De Pere in their public works department, they take a little bit more proactive approach to it. Alloway, obviously, they're just a whole different animal. I've never seen a policy much like Alloway's. They're very unique.
They probably got people going out with a ruler to see how deep it is.
I would venture to guess and talking with Brad, they probably will provide a higher level of service. So if there's 2 inches, they'll probably end up clearing it because they don't want to get into that dispute of whether it's 3 inches or greater.
Yeah. I know one of the reasons that they hit their sidewalks is because the sidewalk on Webster is right up against the road, and the residents there, it's just almost impossible to clear it because everything gets pushed back on it. They clear it back forth. So then I think we came up with that 3 to 6 inch thing, just to help them out. If it was 3 inches or more, then the village would come in and take care of it. So I think that's part of why they do what they do, because of the location of specifically that sidewalk.
So a couple other interesting things to note. So De Pere, they have some trails and side paths, but by and large, the majority of their facilities are going to be sidewalks and on-street bike accommodations, especially in newer areas and reconstruction projects, because that's, from an engineering standpoint, to them, that makes the most sense. And so their trails are largely viewed as recreational areas and not necessarily modes of transportation. Bellevue, just because of my familiarity working there and helping draft the policy, they originally were all on board with these side paths. And so anytime there was a major reconstruction of a county trunk highway or a mainline road, they in all likelihood had side paths installed. And that was kind of the thought process in the early 2000s. And then about the mid 2000s, 2010, when they adopted their first bike and ped policy, they flipped and they went to basically a sidewalk and an on-street bike lane accommodation. And so the idea that 7 miles roughly in Bellevue are maintained by the village is because that was the commitment that they made in the early 2000s when they put those facilities in. But at some point they recognized that that was not going to be sustainable. And then in addition to that, there were some other safety concerns that they had with the use of side paths. And so they kind of abandoned that approach and they went to an all sidewalk approach and then put that back onto the property owners. In Bellevue, typically what they do is their policy states that anyone with a sidewalk, adjacent property owners are required to maintain that. Unless their sidewalk has been exempted under policy, every year the village board reviews a map. That map is adopted and that dictates whether or not the village is going to maintain that sidewalk or trail. When I worked there, the thought process was if you had a sidewalk adjacent to a county trunk highway or a side path, the village was going to maintain that, primarily because of the amount of snow removal activity that the county performs during the duration of a snow event. So you have a snowplow that's coming through and making 3, 4, 5, 6 passes throughout the duration of a snow event. That's putting all that sludge, if you will, that snow sludge onto the sidewalk, and it makes it very difficult for the property owners to maintain. And so the village felt compelled that's why they would maintain that. That was another reason why they got rid of the trails, because it was, again, not sustainable. So I think from staff's perspective, we're kind of at that balancing point of we got about half of our sidewalks are being maintained in and around schools for safe routes to school, for village-owned properties. If we add additional work, whether it's trails or sidewalk, it's likely going to require us to review our policy and decide, should it be maintained in 24 hours or is it going to 48? Do we need to start adding equipment or manpower and reprioritizing the level of service that we provide? We're at that cusp now. So if we add things, we either need to take things away or we need to add resources to the service in order to meet kind of our policy language of that 24-hour.
So somebody asked the last time for a little history of what was going on when it did snow. So I don't know if anybody else took a look at this, but so on the first, we didn't have a lot of snow. And what I noticed was I just took a ride down Packland and Hazelwood to North Road was clear. This time today, Hazelwood to 172 was clear. 172 to Los, I'm going to probably pronounce this wrong, McGee's was not clean. And again, today was not clean. McGee's to Sitco was clean. So obviously they're cleaning that in front of their restaurant. And today only McGee's was clean. Nothing all the way to Sitco was clean. Town Line Recycling and Dave's always have theirs cleaned, or at least the 2 times I went by. The end of Dave's to Schwann is not cleaned. Schwann to Wabi Lane is clean. This on the first. This time or today, Schwann to Conrad was clean, but not Conrad to Wabi. And then Wabi Fernando isn't even touched. I didn't go down Wabi itself by Schneider, but so it's a mix. It's a mix. I mean, it's just somebody that decides they want to clean it. Some of it is simply it's part of their parking lot, right? So they have it plowed.
Dale, I was there today and I noticed that from Conrad to Wabi was cleared and it looked like it was just one continuous vehicle went down there and cleared that whole length. And I also noticed, and I'm not sure, I have a suspicion, but I'm not sure, from the north end of the trailhead, which is just off of Cormier. That's that little side street. I'm not sure what it is. That was clear all the way to 172. And when I got on south of North Road, not only was the sidewalk cleared, it looked like it had been cleared by something with a wide blade. The area between the street and the sidewalk was also cleared. So it looked like somebody pushed all that snow away from the road.
Well, I think what they did, I noticed the same thing, is they took the wing of the grader, plowed it back, and then they came back and did the path with a small
Yeah,
machine. Because you could see the path was clear and the snow was winged back, further
Yeah.
back. So that's what it looked like to me. I could be wrong.
Yeah, so I noticed that too. One other thing that I noticed in the last couple of snowstorms, I walked past Cabela's on, must be Argonne, and then there's a sidewalk alongside alongside Lombardi, and I think it's Cabela's had cleared that because it was adjacent to the Cabela's property. But once I crossed underneath the highway, that was not cleared the first time, but this time it had been plowed all the way to the end of the sidewalk on, by Park Place. So I don't know who cleared it the second time. I don't know if somebody from Cabela's did that or if the village did that.
I noticed this morning when I went out, I noticed that the village was out with their little truck with the plow. So I know it came down Ponderosa. So I'm thinking if it came down Ponderosa, it's probably been out on other roads besides that maybe were never really cleared before.
They're really salting today. That's what they're out for, just because the ice isn't melting. So all
Yeah.
those, the trackless and McLeans are salting all the sidewalks, the state routes to school.
Did you guys hear that, what Rex said?
Yeah, they're
Something about
salting.
salting because of the ice.
Okay.
Yep, I noticed on Packerland, same thing you had, Kyle. I went out, I buzzed by there today and noticed that quite a bit it was cleared this time. And again, I don't know which section is Hobart. Does anybody have any idea which is Hobart up there? Because maybe that section, Kyle, you were talking about from Conrad to
Conrad to Lobby is Hobart.
Wabi is Hobart. So, okay, that's Hobart doing that. They're in there with their truck. Okay, so they're doing that. And you did talk to them, so you can see they are clearing all of their trails on there. Joel or Rex, anything else to add? Any other information that you guys compiled or checked into or anything?
That's basically the information that I gathered from the
Yeah.
group, and it's really, it comes down to a policy decision as to
Right.
what that policy is. I think it's an opportune time to talk about it, so that as we prepare for next year's budget, next year's
Yeah.
snow season, we kind of have a sound path forward. So
Yeah.
I don't know that you necessarily have to feel rushed to make a
Right.
decision, so we
Right. No, I
want to
agree.
kind of work through it.
I think it's just moving forward, just to give you guys some financial end of it. I did reach out to Matt Creasy from the Brown County Parks Department, and as many of you know, they are clearing the Fox River Trail. They cleared 6 miles of it. They've done it 3 years now. The agreement that they have with the Village of Alloway and the City of De Pere and the City of Green Bay is Brown County covers up to $10,700 in the season for the clearing of that trail. If it goes beyond that, then it is applied to the 3 municipalities based on a standard or a formula that they have. For 2018, the total cost for them to contract out, so they contract out with Apple Valley Plowing has done their plowing all 3 years. 2018, to clear 6 miles, it was like $7,600 was the total cost for them to clear that path in 2018. 2019, it was just over $13,000. And then 2019-20, it was $7,143. So just to give you an idea of what they charged, and again, it's for 6 miles of trail. So really the only year that the municipalities had to kick in at all was in 2018. They had to put some money towards it. He did give me some costs on how it works out. Like if they plow and it's up to 3 inches, it's like $195 each time they come out. If they have sand and salt, it's like $390. If it's 3 to 6 inches, then it goes up to $393 each time they come out. And if it's 6 plus, it goes up to $587. So just to give you an idea, I know that the trail is slightly different than some of our trails, because it's a little more isolated. But the cost, I didn't really have an idea of how much it was, but you can see it's less than 15,000 and pretty much less than 8,000 2 out of the 3 years. So, and that is contracting with someone to come in, take care of it, sand it, salt it, and do the whole works on it. So just to give you an idea of what kind of costs we're maybe looking at for clearing some of the trails.
Tracy, do you remember regarding Packerland Trail, this agreement happened before I came on board, but I know there's a letter out there from the DNR, or to the DNR from the village, just stating that the trail wouldn't be cleared due to stormwater control and salt issues. I don't know if you remember this letter. I should have brought a copy with me. I'm gonna email it to you.
Okay. See, I don't remember getting any funding from DNR. It was funded, I think, through the city, or excuse me, Brown County and the village of Ashwaubenon, but I don't remember a grant or anything being part of it.
It was an official letter from, it might not have been, but regardless, it's something we'd have to work with the DNR on, because apparently back in the day, there was some kind of an agreement about not plowing it, and I don't know, maybe, I don't know. Was part of the trail funded? I mean, because I know it goes from obviously Cormier all the way to Fernando.
I think the section that I remember Brown County and the village working together on was from basically Ashwaubenon north. That's the piece that I remember working with Brown County on. The southern piece was, I think after I was gone, you and Jeff might have worked on that together.
Right.
So I don't remember that one, and if there was a grant that they got for that, but the other part, I know we did not, because Brown County kind of spearheaded that and had that one that they, worked on and wanted to go through. There was a lot of debate back and forth about putting that path in there. And the village was kind of like, I don't know if we want it there. They're looking at sidewalks and bike lanes instead. And then the guy said, we're putting the path in. So that's what ended up in there. I don't remember getting a grant or anything for that or having any criteria.
Yeah, it has to do with the DNR and this.
Tracy?
Yes.
We talked about stormwater control and then the use of salt, basically for groundwater quality. So.
I don't have it in front of me, but I recall looking at a website that showed the Knowles stewardship grants, and it showed them in the county, and I'm pretty sure that it indicated that trail received grant money.
Which would make sense.
So I'll try to find that, but it looked to me that was given money through that stewardship grant.
Okay.
I just have a couple of other things before we move on from this. We mentioned that I believe was it Alloway or Bellevue, they've changed their policy, and after a certain point, they're no longer maintaining sidewalks. To me, that would be something, I live on Cormier Road, so there's a discussion of sidewalks on the south side of Cormier Road, and I think, at least my impression was the village was concerned about who's going to maintain that. It's pretty hard to say, well, we're going to plow them on one side, but not on the other. But if a neighboring community has sort of made that decision, I think maybe that makes it a little easier for the village board to justify. Now, I don't know what their feeling is. I don't want to project to them, but I think that, if we're going to advocate for that sidewalk, that might be at least a small way to counter that argument. The second thing is at our last meeting, we talked about the trail through Argonne Park. And if my notes said that was going to be plowed through the end of the Packer season, the end of the football season, it was plowed again last week. I think, and I see people walking on it, and I think that people are used to that, given that this has been a light season, at least it appears to me a light season for snow plowing, you know, maybe the budget would allow them to plow that through the rest of the year. But, you know, again, that's just a thought.
Yeah, Kyle, I would have to just double check with Doug. I'm guessing it's probably just a lack of communication. The operator is just going through there and clearing it, or they may found it to be efficient as a cut through to get to another location. I'm not sure. I'd have to do a little.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
I
but
think it's nice, like you said, Kyle, it's getting used. It's, you know, people are using it because it's open. And I would think all of our trails in the community, if they were open during the winter months, they would get used.
You know,
And-
particularly one that's been plowed and then to stop plowing it mid-season.
Yeah, that's a little tougher. You're right.
It would be interesting to understand the response from the people that had their sidewalks plowed in Bellevue, and then they're told they're not going to be plowed.
I'm sure it didn't make them happy.
No,
It wasn't
sure
a
didn't.
very good conversation, I can tell you that for
Yeah,
sure.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Is everyone familiar with the snow and ice removal map that's found on the village's website as it relates to sidewalks and trails?
I think, didn't we look at it at our last meeting?
Yeah, we looked at it last time.
Yeah, we looked at it at the last meeting. Jeremy's here. So I guess you guys, what do you think on this? And Jessica, you had talked about, you know, kind of looking at the sidewalks in conjunction with the trails as well. What are your concerns or what are your comments on the sidewalks end?
I think for me, just in general, as we continue to add apartment buildings, it seems like they're kind of becoming more predominant in the area and we become more populated. I'm curious as to if there's been, you know, strategic planning to figure out based on those people moving into those apartments, how many of those are having, you know, a car for every person in their family or are looking at needing to have more public transportation versus walking. And so I think just from an overall picture, if we're going to continue to promote as a village having, you know, more of a dense population, that we need to think about the fact that if that's then going to have more people walking, using sidewalks to bus stations or however their transportation is going to be, to me, that's almost like a need-based that's being maintained. And, you know, the majority of those areas, I'm sure, are the businesses getting that done. But even, you know, there are areas that are probably not. And so I just think as we have more and more people, like I said, I know from a roadside standpoint, we have more employees walking to it than we ever have before. So I think, you know, there is a shift in people living in our area that are starting to not have vehicles. They're using public transportation, your Ubers, your ride shares, things like that. And so I think for them, it's more of a necessity that some of that stuff is cleared. And so I think just looking at more than just the recreational trails, but what areas of the village are high traffic for that. You know, even like getting down to the mall, things like that. To me, that's like an amenity, if you will, for living in the village that I could see as being a popular one, potentially going forward.
All right, thank you for that. I think that you're right, you know, looking at our transportation system, not only for our motor vehicles, but for our pedestrians and our bicyclists, so people can move through our community in any way they choose to move through. And if that can start being an all-encompassing thought for staff, for leaders, for everybody, we can start maybe doing some of these things and, you know, getting it taken care of. So, and you're exactly right, there's a lot more people with the apartments that be moving in that maybe have one car or don't even have a car because they're moving into a, you know, an area where they can get what they need by foot. And if you don't keep them clear or don't have that accessible, it'd be difficult for them to get where they want to go. All right, any other comments, you guys, and what do you want to do with this, move forward? Obviously, like Joel said, it has some costs associated with it. There's philosophies and there's policies right now in place that guide us where we are right now. Is it something that you would like to keep working on and see if we can come up with, whether it's, you know, just a recommendation to the village board, a white paper to the village board, kind of saying, here's what our thoughts are, here's what we think on this subject. What are your thoughts on this? Do you want to pursue it further, or where do you want to go?
Have we heard, Tracy, this is Dale, have we heard from other residents looking for this? I mean, are you getting comments? Are you, Rex, are you seeing things from anybody? Or is this just something we think is maybe something to do? Or, I mean, are we getting any opinions from, I mean, because that's one of the things I wrote down is, I'm going to use me as an example, right? But we had referendums for a pool, a performance arts, a community center, many things. I don't necessarily use those, but I'm proud of my community. And I certainly voted for them. So is this one of those things that we can present? And I know surveys are expensive. I remember Rex's going through that, but how do you get input from the residents of Ashwaubenon? What do they want? It's not what we want, it's what do we want as a majority? I mean, we're representing them, right? We're the committee, we're trying to go forward, but how do we get their input on something like this?
Well, I know one of the things that administration's thinking about is just the whole strategic plan for the village of Ashwaubenon. And one of the things I remember hearing in discussion in the last couple months was, literally doing a village survey on some of the different services. And the questions that you're posing could certainly be part of an overall survey as it comes down, as it becomes a reality. Obviously, that's not going to happen tomorrow, but I would probably venture to say in the next year or two, there'll be some type of community-wide survey going out. You asking if there's a demand or if I've gotten any calls for it. I will say that personally, I have not gotten calls on the Packerland Trail. However, I've gotten multiple calls on the Ashwaubenon River Trail from the people Bay Harbor condominiums in Mansell Flats, to the extent that they are privately plowing the trail in some form or fashion. And we know that's happening. Our garbage cans along that route are filled with dog remnants.
Kind of like Waterford Park.
Weekly, yeah, we're having to go out there and then literally it's 100 pounds of dog poop we're lifting out of these cans all the time because it's their dog walking around. It's one of the few, Mansell Flats is one of the few places that allow pets in a nicer apartment building. So I know that they're using that trail. I see a lot of people, we were out there doing some observations on some of the lighting along the marina the other day or the other week. Glenn and I were our park foreman, and there were quite a few people using the trail, and you could see a lot of the footprints and some of the areas of snow that had kind of blown over. So I know that one's being used quite a bit, but that's being done privately. I'm not sure who's doing it. They're doing a good job because we're keeping an eye on it. We don't want it to be damaged, obviously, but that one looks like it's being taken care of privately, and it seems to be working. It goes all there. Someone's plowing it all the way down past Bay Harbor condominium to our pump station, and then from the pump station back up to Broadway, the village is taking care of that because they have to be able to get down to the pump station. So the water department is plowing that section of trail. But all along the waterfront, that's being done privately. Someone's doing it. Someone who lives in that apartment building, I'm guessing that has a bigger ability, to do that with maybe a truck or a blade or a business or something like that.
So there's one other thing I found online, and I can pass this. I should have probably passed it on. It's called Why Trails 2020 edition. And I mean, it talks all about job creation, local business sales, tourism, lodging. What kind of community do we want to be? I mean, and you think about this too, some of these cities, they draw quality people because of where they get to live. So there's more to it than just saying it costs money. It costs money for a lot of things we've done in this village. So I don't want to just give it up, but I'd like to know what other people within the village think.
Segue into that, I'd like to see, even though it's gonna take time for the street department, how much would it cost? I hope they figured out, how much would it cost the village on a snow day to plow all the sidewalks? I mean, just man hour and labor, I wanna know how much it costs to plow everything. And then you can move, if you know how much everything costs, then you can pare it down. But I want to see how much it costs for one snowfall like this to plow all the sidewalks in the village. They should be able to do that if they know the miles of the sidewalk, the machinery, and the people in trucks and so forth. I just think that would be good. I don't know. One time, how much would it cost to plow all the sidewalks in the village and paths?
Yeah, I was thinking about that a little bit earlier, Tracy, when you mentioned the cost for the trail on the east side there. I don't even know if we could use that, right? But if you think about Packerland, to Rex's point, they come by and plow that a few times and they throw the snow right back up on the sidewalk. So that fellow that's going to come there and clean that off, he might be there 2 or 3, unless he waits the 48 hours, which can be done too, right? You say, okay, you can't go on there and clean the trail until they're done plowing.
You can make a village ordinance stating any length of time and just separate the trails out from the normal sidewalk.
Yeah, I mean, the trails probably would not or shouldn't be the same priority as the sidewalks going to school or the sidewalks along the road, because people are moving there whether they're going to work or going to school or whatever. A lot of the trails are probably more recreational in nature, but some of them certainly are being used for transportation as well. So, you know, it's looking at them and setting where they fall in the priority level. So you're right. I mean, some of them, you know, shouldn't be before the route going to Valley View School, but there still is a need for it at what level. Randy, you have anything? Jessica, anything?
I really like the idea of like working it into like the strategic planning, because to me, again, that is kind of where I think it needs to kind of stem from, since there's so many other things at play. I agree with Dale definitely that I think it's hard to say, it's all our opinion, but it would be nice to know more of what is our community looking for. And I definitely agree with, I think we need to look at who do we want to be attracting to live in Ashwaubenon, because, I've talked about it before, but being, my kids are in the school district, our friends are all kind of the same age group, the majority of our friends have moved out of Ashwaubenon. So, why are they leaving? You kind of have that group going. So what can we do to be drawing and keeping some of those good people in the village? And I think some of those amenity type things can be it.
I'm just gonna add one more thing. Plowing sidewalks is good, but there's another issue, which is ice, because I used to live in front, or we had an office too, that was on the step the village plowed because it was by school. They did not do the ice. I had to take the ice buckets and I had to buy ice and I had to salt those sidewalks, just so you're aware of that. So plowing is one thing, but the residents will still have to take care of the ice. And if they want people to walk on it, they're liable, because that Native Village does not do ice. They didn't for us on the path to school. Just to throw it out there so you know that.
The only thing, Tracy, I would add is be interesting in a future meeting if Aaron Schutte could maybe come and spend some time we've kind of said it already, but in economic development, I'm looking at more than just the current resident, but the attraction of the new resident. Because if you look online to why people are going to communities, the health, the ability to get around safely, the socialization piece through parks, which we're doing I think a wonderful job. All of those things are really the new attractions. And so it's more than just who's living here now that will stay, because we're going to have turnover in homes. We're becoming a more aged community. They're all going to be leaving their houses and going to Woodside. So I think it'd be interesting just to see where Aaron's coming from on that, so we can I'm thinking about as we go to the board, if they're not into it themselves, at least our experience on overpasses over highways and stuff, if they're not into using it themselves, it's a hard thing to communicate. But if it hits
I
from a
don't,
knowledge perspective, I think it's important. So,
I don't think the value of plowing them is in question at all. I think the question is in the funding and the manpower of maintaining them. You know,
Well-
if you're presenting something to the board, I would focus on, you know, the need, like you said, to do it, which I think they already agree with. It's just that, you know, where's the money coming from, and you have to get over that hump of you know, raising taxes or taking other services away to do the plowing. And that I think is where the issue is. I don't think anyone's going to argue with any of us on, boy, it would be nice to get some of these trails plowed. I mean, I totally agree. But with that, you know, for every action comes a reaction, and it's manpower and it's funding. That's what the issue is going to be.
Right, and I don't know if right now we have that number that we can say to them. Like Annette, I like your comment about how much does it cost us to do the sidewalks? Because you can definitely figure that out, because they're probably coding all their time cards, they're spending all the hours in the machinery, so that could be figured out. And you could probably get a fairly good price on the trails. I mean, they're different, they're slightly different because they're wider than, you know, a sidewalk's gonna be. In some cases, it'll be easier than a sidewalk, in other cases, they're gonna be tougher. But you could probably get some good costs on that, because you're right, Rex. Ultimately, it's the bottom line. How much is it gonna cost? But then it's the whole philosophy of what does the village really want to be? And Jessica stated that, Randy has, Dale has. Do we want to provide this for our residents year round in, you know, in this climate? Or do we want to have, you know, 5 months of the year that those trails are impassable and not usable? That's kind of the bottom line for the discussion. But you're right, it always seems to come down to what is the ultimate dollar? What is it going to cost us?
Well, or what is the resident willing to pay? I mean, yeah, there's a cost, but it's our taxes. We make those decisions.
If you had an estimate and then you did a survey and say, well, it would cost this much for a resident, it'd be interesting to see how many would say, yeah, I'll pay for that. That's not that much, or what have you. I mean, you need to have something for them to go with too.
Yeah.
It's a big pie to split up.
Yeah. You know, when I was out campaigning for the trustee position, it came up with quite a few people about they really wish the trails were open year round. But in the neighborhood where I live, in the area that I live in, there's the Wabi Lane Trail and the Packer Lane Trail and the Industrial Park Trail. So they're used. I mean, you always see people out there. And during the winter, I mean, they're shut down right now. You can go there with snowshoes, but otherwise it's pretty much of a truck to get through there. So there was a lot of people. And I was not saying anything about trails, so it wasn't solicited from me, even though it's a big thing for me. It was just comments coming out of them as I was talking to them, just asking them, you know, anything you want to share with me about good or bad in the community. And that came up frequently. So there is a desire, I think, in the community for this. Again, how do you figure that out? How do you get that information out so the village board understands there is some desire, which I'm sure there is. There's a lot of people that would want to see this cleared year round.
Tracy?
Yes.
This is Kyle. You know, I think it's probably relatively simple to find the cost. What does it cost in manpower and equipment to do the snow plowing? And it's easy to focus on that, but something that's not quite so easy to see is what value does it pay to our community? And that's kind of what everybody's been touching on. I know Jessica has mentioned it today, and I've heard her mention in the past that the segment of population, the younger, the millennials, they want stuff like that. They see value in it. Natalie from Wellow, it doesn't appear she's going to be here to give a report. At the meeting last week, they spent a lot of time. The City of Green Bay Parks Department is working on a Green Bay cultural trail. And one of the goals of that cultural trail is to get people into the different business areas and cultural sites around town, rather than just viewing alternate transportation as being just recreation. You know, they are focusing on how do we position this so we show that we're going to get people from downtown to the university, or downtown to Military Avenue, or downtown to Titletown, or wherever they're going to go. So, you know, I don't think we're alone in trying to explore that and trying to show the value of transportation other than by car. And I know at the meeting, she mentioned that, you know, they're doing it just for Green Bay right now, but they have spoken with Aaron, and, you know, at least my impression that Aaron was receptive to listening to them. So, you know, so when we talked about Aaron a couple of minutes ago, you know, that just hearing his name mentioned made me think of that. So, you know, there are other people in this community, not in Ashwaubenon, but the greater community, that are looking at the same thing. And what value does this provide to the community?
Yeah.
And you know, when I think we go to the village board, you know, we have to find a way to bring that up.
I think Jessica hit on it earlier too. You got to think about the people coming up. Unfortunately, Randy mentioned it before, which I didn't like, but I could be one of those people over there at that place. Jessica, someday. But to give you an analogy, so I have a son that's actually graduated with Jessica, lived in New Orleans, came back here to Wauwatosa, bought a home that's probably 2 blocks from State Street because of the past, because of the dogs, because of everything that's there. Probably paid 3 times what he could buy a house for outside of that. They didn't care. They want to be part of the community. They want to be able to, and it's you down there, and everybody is so friendly. Everybody's walking their dog. I see where they're coming from. I don't agree with the prices on the properties, but I get it. I mean, I get it. It takes your eyes, takes someone like that to open up your eyes and say, okay, this is crazy what you're paying for this, but I understand it.
So if I were to recap, it sounds like what the committee needs anyway from us is a cost, an internal cost per average snow event for trail and sidewalk removal for our current condition, right? So I think we can calculate that fairly easily based on man hours and equipment time. Then we need to come up with an estimate per mile for contracted sidewalk and or trail removal. And we can use some existing contracts as an example. The Fox River Trail that Tracy had mentioned, if they have 6 miles of trail and they're spending between $1,000 and $2,000 per year per mile, that'll tell you right there, if we were to do that with all of our trails, we have 12.5 miles of trails. We're talking anywhere between $12,000 and $25,000 roughly of what we're going to spend to contract. So that's a fairly decent number to work from. And that's, again, just trails. What we'll want to maybe receive some feedback from the committee is, what are the priorities for removal? Is this an all or nothing affair? Is it all the existing facilities that we don't currently maintain that ultimately is the goal to become maintained? Or is it a set list of ones that have a higher priority? So meaning, maybe you have certain trails that you want maintained in 24 hours or 48 hours, and maybe others can be maintained a week after a snow event when equipment and manpower or labor is available. And then also, you'll want to keep in mind the scalability of the policy that you're recommending. And what I mean by that, as the village continues to develop these facilities, which I think is the intent, right? As the bike and ped plan continuously gets implemented, you're going to be adding mileage into the system. And is the policy scalable to be sustainable over that period of time? I think if you were to call anybody, and it's very popular, if you talk to any of the staff, they're going to tell you their policy is not sustainable. They can't maintain that policy if they keep adding facilities to their system for expense and from an operational standpoint. So you have to keep those things in mind, that whatever policy decision you make, you want to make it so that it's scalable based on the needs at that present moment. I think between Rex, I, and then Doug, we can get some cost information for the committee for the next meeting. And if you can kind of put your thoughts together as to what the priorities are, maybe take that map that's on the website and identify those areas that aren't being maintained and try to prioritize those on a scale of, let's say, 1 to 3. 1 being a high priority, 3 being a lower priority. I think that would be helpful for us. And then we can kind of talk about the scalability of the policy based on that conversation.
This is Kyle again. Let me just bring up one point. When we build a park, or we do Ashwaubenon Lake or whatever, when we build that park, we figure, well, we're going to have to mow that grass. We're going to have to maintain those trees. We figure that upkeep into the initial cost of the park, and I'm sure they don't build a park and say, oh, I forgot we have to mow the lawns. They figure that out. So why going forward can't we just figure, well, we have to maintain it 12 months of the year instead of 6?
Well, I think that's the argument for why we're in the current position we're in. I think when these facilities went in, the argument was, well, we're not going to maintain them for the full 12 months, and that's why we're going to allow the facilities to go in.
Mhm.
And so that's kind of the predicament that we're in, is that we're changing that thought process.
Right.
Originally, they said they were only going to be a 3-season trail. Now we want to make them a 4-season trail, and now we're changing that thought.
Yeah, I think your important point, Joel, was obviously we're on this bike and ped committee for a reason. We want to have connectivity to these other cities, and so we want more paths. We want more sidewalk. We want to be able to connect. So you're right, that mileage is going to increase. However, how do we justify, like any business, it's the ROI, what's the return on your investment? And it's easy to do that, I suppose, for the Packer district. How do we need to come up with something, and to me, it's still a sense of community, quality of life for the individuals we want to live in Ashwaubenon. So we kind of need to put that as part of this as well. If we have to justify, I don't want to say justify it, but it sounds like we have to justify it. It'd be a lot easier to justify it if we had more opinions from the public.
Well, and the other thing, as you hit it on the head, as trails and facilities are being added, we are also adding potentially residents or businesses to increase our tax base. So as these developments are coming in, there's more money coming in. So, it needs to be scalable, and I get that, Joel, but it also is being covered to a certain degree by new development coming in and requiring those paths or those trails or that park or whatever to come in. So it's, it's allowing for more tax base to take care of those things and cut the grass in the parks and do all of that. So
you're right, Tracy. It might not be houses, it might be apartment buildings, which seem to be putting a lot of them up.
Yep, right. Yep. So does that sound like a plan, everybody? If you all can think about kind of priorities, what your thoughts are on that. And then internally, the staff will work on getting some numbers together for us and some anticipated costs. And then we'll bring it back to the next meeting and discuss it again. Anything else anybody thinks we should add to it or talk about at the next meeting that we should do some more research, or that maybe staff could do some more research for us?
No, just thank you to Joel for doing the legwork on the other communities, because I actually had that down as a note that we need to do that. We need to be aware of what are the other communities doing.
Yeah. And I'll send it to Sue, and then Sue can send that out to you.
And I do have a call into Green Bay too, because I know you didn't include them because they're so much bigger than us, but they are an adjacent community. And Kyle, as you know from sitting on the Active Communities Alliance, Green Bay has been doing some really cool things with bike and ped stuff. So to get their input, I think, is probably a good idea, just because we are adjacent to them. So I'll try to get Green Bay's and then pass it on to you with the same information that you have for these. Anything else on that, anybody? I appreciate all your input and your thoughts, and it's not something that'll happen tomorrow, but at least we're moving along, and hopefully we'll keep moving and get to a point where either we get it done, or we don't, or we know why we can't, or we can do bits and pieces. So at least we're moving forward. But anything else to add, anybody? No. Thank you very much for your input on that end. Next item agenda is discussion and possible action on 2018 project plan. Rex and I think Dale had asked about this going on.
Yeah, and we're not done with it yet. You've got, so basically, it's about half and half. Half of the things were in the plan, half of them were not in the plan. If you're looking at page 14 of your packet.
So you're saying in this plan, right? Okay,
The
so
bike
that's
and
the bike
ped
ped plan. Okay,
So these items on page 14, some of them were in there, some of them weren't.
that's what I was gonna ask about. Okay.
Yeah, so, and so we, Sue's actually went through and identified a lot of them already. And so, you know, the question is, I mean, do we want to, obviously, the ones that have already done after the fact, I mean, we take stuff out of the plan. We don't want all that stuff in the plan, you know, if they're done. So, so that whole first section here, the point is moot. The other two sections, the ones that are in queue and on deck, if they aren't in the plan, do you want us to add them in the plan? Because they were never identified by the Bike and Ped Committee. You know what I mean? I mean, every time we have an opportunity to do something, we're going to take a look at it. But does that mean if we decide to do it, does it need to go into the plan?
You know, in some ways, it's good to have it in the plan, because if we ever, let's say one of these projects that are put out here, we can apply for a grant for it. It's in the plan, and that gives you points on the grant.
Certainly.
So, I mean, that's one reason to put it in there and keep them in there for grant purposes.
So we will put them in the plan. So what
Yeah, I think I'm with Tracy kind of, not to make work. So if you need some help with it, Sue, I'm more than happy to help with that. But my belief is it should be there because you've done a lot of work there. And for future, people should know if they want to go back and see, what have you done in this community? Well, you did a lot. If you just throw it away, they just take it for granted that it was there. It wasn't just there. It took a lot of work to get it there. So
Yeah.
I mean, I might be wrong, but I'm just thinking for what it would take for us to put that in there wouldn't be all that difficult.
And I'm wondering, now that you're saying that, you know, because we've made an effort when things are completed to pull them out so
Right.
that the plan is not messy per se. But there's not anything saying we can't have almost like another section or an appendix in the
That's, I
back,
say an appendix.
completed projects.
Yeah, which is
type of thing,
huge. Yep.
which kind of shows a history of,
Yep.
you know, even something as simple as this.
Right.
Just like that, where it just says, here's what's been done, here's the year it was done in,
Yes.
and that way at least you've got a little bit of a background, you know, for future committee members and residents who are taking an interest in this.
Yep. No, I think that's a great
That was
idea.
the idea behind the spreadsheet, because we can sort it by completed and not completed, right? So you can hide them.
It's too,
No, I
it
think
gets too convoluted. To me,
No,
this needs
I
to be
think
separate and
doing an appendix or something with these are the things that were completed is huge. If you just take it out, like you said, all of a sudden it's like, well, what have you done? Well, we've done these, 15, 20 projects here have been done in the last 5 years. And to have that in the plan so people can look at it and say, that's great.
It's a good
We
idea.
have done a lot. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I think that would make the plan better and more usable.
Right.
Not more usable, but I mean, it shows the history.
Right. And then when someone says, well, you haven't done anything, you go, well, no, we really have. We've got these 15 projects that we completed and it's in the plan and can keep updating it.
And these are just the ones that were done in the last, couple of years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Is everything, just my own ignorance, is everything that is in the current plan as a recommendation from an engineering standpoint, have all those projects been completed or are there still?
No, there's dozens and dozens of
That are still there.
that are just there that should an opportunity come along, the village would want to take a look at. So our,
Joel, there's a
and others are more controversial.
Joel, there's a column that says status recommendation. That's kind of where we're putting the updates, so we know what the status is.
Do we need a motion to add that appendix?
Someone want to make a motion to add that completed projects appendix to the plan?
I'll motion it. This is Dale.
Second, Randy.
A motion and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And I think then what we'll do with the ones that are in queue and on deck, we'll add those onto the current plan. We'll bring that completed plan back to the board. Then someone will need a motion to accept it at that point, like an update.
Back to the committee again,
Yeah,
then whenever, next month or whenever you get to it, okay.
Correct.
Okay. Is there, I don't know if it was part of what you're looking for, Rex, but any other on deck type things that anybody thought of that maybe are listed here? Is that something you're looking for too, Rex, or not necessarily? Did we get plenty?
No, I mean, we're always looking for, if someone has an idea or sees a need, I mean, we're always looking for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've captured a lot of them, but I mean, every time there's a project that comes up, that's kind of where Kyle comes into play, is in terms of letting the committee know what's coming up, and
Yeah.
and then, you know, is there facilities that should be looked at to help out bike and pedestrian access?
Well, you'd mentioned before, Rex, about the survey. We definitely need to make sure that we're a part of that. So
Well,
we get information from the residents of what do they want in reference to bike and pet.
So I have a feeling the survey could probably get pretty burdensome. What do I?
That's a good word.
So,
It could really get long. So, you know, maybe what we want to do is just pick a random number and say, okay, what are, for bike and pet facilities, what are like 4 questions you would want to get answers from the community? And,
Sure.
you know, we can always add a few more, or if it's ungodly long, the whole survey, then we can always pull back a little bit. But, you know, maybe we ought to come up with 4 to 6 questions, you know, when that survey goes out to the community, what do we want to ask? So, I mean, we're ready to go and, hey, insert these in, you know, rather than trying to scramble and come up with some questions. So maybe we can come up with maybe that could be a point of discussion, you know, if someone has some ideas to bring back to one of the next meetings, and just, you know, kind of talk about wordsmithing and what sounds good to get the answers that we're looking for.
what about, I know the Parks Department has a Facebook site. I don't know how many look at that or how busy that is or how popular, but maybe, you know, the survey may be a while because we're gonna go through the whole strategic plan process, and the survey will be part of that. Even to do a real basic quick shot on the Facebook and say, get some feedback and see if you get any that way, or do something out on the website saying, doing you know, just to see where people are at on these things, just to get some feedback as we're moving through this process to see what the residents are thinking, or just to get a feel for it, if that, something like that would work, in like an interim type thing, I guess. If, you know, if you have much people that are, you know, many people that are going out to the Facebook and.
We've got about, on the Park and Rec page, we've got about 2,800 followers.
So we can maybe look at that too, or discuss that a little bit and see if there's something we want to do before the big survey goes out, and see if, you know, just to get, you know, not as official, but just to get a feel, I guess, for what people think about that.
So can you tell me real quick, I don't want to keep this meeting going, but when they do water bills, do they always send them out in the mail?
Yes, so yeah, we contract with Green Bay Water Utility.
Okay, so you have the ability, do you have ability to stuff that same envelope, or won't they let you do that?
Probably more limited now that it's contracted out. When we used to do it in-house, then yeah, we could certainly do that, but now it's kind of automated under the Green Bay Water Utility.
It's also in different billing cycles now, so like I think the villages was 3 or 4
different cycles.
There's 3 different
Oh, okay.
cycles now,
Okay.
because it's done quarterly, right?
Because I know they always send a stormwater thing out, like in our
So
15
rather than being inundated by everybody's water bill at the same time, they
They're
try to spread it
quarters,
out.
okay.
So, you know, in thirds.
Oh, thirds, okay.
So there's a third of the village each time, so they're, they get billed every 3 months, but there's 3 sections of the village that get billed on a different month.
Okay.
So the survey that Rex has been kind of alluding to, we haven't drafted the official questions yet, but by and large, I think it's going to be kind of a high level type survey that probably won't get into too much of the weeds per se. So we might ask questions about quality of life, hoping that the responses that we receive are kind of more organic versus us trying to pin them down to a specific yes or no type answer. So just think about it that way, that we might ask a bigger picture type question related to quality of life, that organically we might get answers related to bike and pet. And if that's driven kind of that way, then that gives us a little bit of direction versus are we really doing the best we can with bike and pet and get more into the specifics. I don't know that that's going to be the case, because as Rex had alluded, then we're going to get a survey that we're going to be sending out that's over 50 questions, and our response rate might go down tremendously because of that.
Yeah.
When do you think the survey will go out, Joe? Do you have any feel for that?
I suspect it'll probably be the end of first quarter, probably at the very earliest, but sometime during second quarter of the year.
Okay.
And it'll be largely an online survey. That's the plan anyway, that people could theoretically come in and take the survey in person or by mail if done so by request.
So that was my thought behind the water bill, that you could just put a little notification in that we had a survey in there for the bike and ped on our website. And your response is probably not even going to be 10%, but at least we get some opinions. So, but if that's not an avenue we can use, that's fine. And we got to do what we got to do.
Yeah. And so I'm just waiting for the concerts to line up. So, I mean, there's a cost to it. I want to say the summer concert schedule going out to everybody's. Well, the printing of a single, third sheet and the stuffing was probably around 700, maybe $750, give or take a little bit.
That was for one of the third.
That's
only for a third of
for a third sheet. That was just the printing. That's, they'll stuff it in there. I don't know if it costs anything to stuff it in. I don't get any additional bills for that, but I know the printing costs to do that, because we can't like print it ourselves and then give it to them. They got to do it through their system. Was probably around $750.
Okay, so that might be an option to look into. All right. Anything else on the projects on Rex? Anything else you want to bring up, or any other comments, anybody?
Nope, still plugging away on the West Main Avenue Trail. You're going to see utility relocation starting next week on West Main Avenue between Sand Acres Drive and South Ridge Road. So they're moving along on that. I think back of right of way should already be flagged, or flagged. No, I'm sorry, it'll be flagged just by this coming Thursday, and then they'll start the actual digging and moving, mobilizing next week. WCS will be.
And just a quick update on the list also, Rex has the signalized intersection survey that they're gonna do. I did meet with Doug, I think last week, talked about that. It's on one intersection, and I think we talked about it the last time. He is gonna change the verbiage on it for, can someone get in a wheelchair get to the button? What we're gonna say is that intersection, or are those quadrants handicap accessible or ADA compliant? And then you're looking at, the hard surface, you're looking at placement of the button, you're looking at the type of button, you're looking at also where that button's located in connection to the intersection. So they're gonna be looking at all of that. Doug's gonna come to our meeting in March, and he's gonna go through all that with us and explain exactly what they're gonna look at, and maybe bring a couple sample intersections that they've done to talk about and see where we go from there. So again, this will help them prioritize the needs for those intersections, looking at what's out there, what they can take on first. But he's gonna come and talk about that at our March meeting, and then they'll continue to do the intersections and provide some good information for Doug as they go forward. All right, nothing else on that, then we will go to, what is the next? Department reports, anything else from Park and Rec Recs? Nope, okay. State DOT, nobody here. Public safety, Jeff was supposed to be here, but we're lucky that Jason is still here. Jason, anything for us on public safety end?
I don't have anything.
Nothing? All right. Thank you for sitting in on the meeting today. And like I said, you're welcome to come back anytime that you would like to. And we look forward to working with Jeff. Jason's like, not going. Schools, anything from the schools that anybody else knows of that they want to, there's no rep
We
here.
need a representative from the school district.
Work on that, Rex. Get a rep. Come on, you can do it. There's got to be somebody that can do it. And Natalie is not here, but Kyle brought up some good things that Natalie had brought up at our last meeting. Willow has been working with the village of Ashwaubenon on some bike and ped things as well. Any other comments on biking and walking in the community? Anything else someone wants to add?
Just have a quick question from your agenda, and maybe I missed this, but who's Jeff Panzier?
Jeff Panzier will be our new public safety representative. Jason is
Okay.
moving on to making better things.
Jason,
Jeff-
that was short.
Yes.
Short-lived.
Jason, Jeff could not make it today, so Jason graciously said it.
Well, thanks,
Randy?
Jason.
I had,
Thank you.
I had one question. I got a call this week. I'm not a bicyclist. I don't have the answer. They were trying to get across Ashland, and we've talked, I know, at some of the other intersections, but they were at Cormier. And the light just would never change. What advice are we supposed to tell them?
They have to hit the button.
So
There's a
that-
pedestrian, they have to hit that pedestrian button, because if it won't change,
Okay.
it won't change unless there's a car there. So you have to get off your bike and hit that button, the walk button.
And then get back on. Okay.
And one bad
That's
thing
a-
about that, one bad thing about the buttons there, they do serve a purpose because the lights will not change for a bicyclist. You are correct. But what the button is doing, it's putting the bicyclist in a bad spot. You shouldn't have to get off your bike, quickly run over there, push a button to try to get back and get on your bike and go. And it's, they're putting them way on the right side of the road, which they probably shouldn't be, especially if there's a right turn lane there. So what they've done and what the DOT has done, it serves its purpose because you can at least get the button to trip, but it is not ideal and it really is not in a good spot and kind of an unsafe spot. I was trying to get to the one on Potts and there was an officer across the street. He was going the other direction than me. And I almost fell over on my bicycle because I was trying to do it, staying on my bike and reaching over to hit the button. And he's just looking at me like, you are an idiot. What are you doing? But that was the only way that was going to trip. So it's not ideal how they have it laid out, but at least it's something
Okay.
that people can trip it. So yeah, they have to push a button.
I could look into that, but there might be a law on that. Motor bicycles, they need to sit at a red light for a minute and they can proceed through a red light. I believe that might go with bicyclists also. They have to sit there for a minute. After a minute, if it doesn't change and it's safe to go, they can proceed.
And avid
Not ideal,
biker,
but-
avid cyclists know that, but the casual cyclist does not, and probably isn't gonna, they're just gonna wait.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think,
like Main Avenue in West De Pere.
I think
That's
for a
dangerous.
cyclist, it's 45 seconds that they have to wait for the light and then they can go. But when you're talking about Ashland Avenue, do we want anybody, whether it's an experienced cyclist or definitely not a beginning cyclist, to try to do that without having the lights? I don't think so. That's scary. I mean, I even looking at that, I don't like to do that on my own unless it's a Sunday morning and nobody's out there. And really, it's just a hazardous crossing, and to not have the provisions for someone to do it safely is too bad. And maybe when the intersections are redone or there's a way that they can do it better. And even someone walking, for instance, at that intersection, you're supposed to walk against traffic, right? So you can see the cars coming.
Yeah.
They have to like cross over, because if they're going westbound on, I'm gonna give Hanson intersection, Hanson and Ashland. They're walking westbound, then they're on the north side of the road, right? Because they're walking against traffic. They get to that corner, there is no button there, because the button is on the other side of the road. So they have to cross over, run over there, get that button, and then technically they should probably go back and then cross over. So it's really putting a pedestrian in a bad spot also, because there's no button for them where they should be walking. So not ideal, but it is something. So
Well, maybe Doug's survey will show that.
yes, yeah.
Okay,
Probably
thank you.
will. Okay. Next meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 8th. 2021. Anything that anybody wants to add to the agenda? Doug will be here to talk about a signalized intersection. We talked about bringing back this discussion that we just had on the whole clearing of sidewalks and trails. What else did we talk about?
We were talking about priorities and, yep.
Oh yeah, priorities on the trail, think about that.
Updated bike and ped.
Update the bike and ped plan. Anything else, Susie? Did you have anything else that, no? Okay, so we'll have those, what, 4 or 5 or whatever that was on the agenda.
Want to do the survey questions? Should we come up with a survey question? Or is it too early for that?
No, if you have, we don't necessarily need to have an agenda item for that. I can just, or we can have just an update on the village's strategic plan.
Okay,
At that point, we can talk about it. So if you have specific questions you'd like to ask, that would be that point.
Tracy, can you, I'm sorry, but can you repeat them quick? Because we normally don't get the agenda to like, I want to make sure I'm prepared. So what were those things we're going to do?
Susie, do you have them, or should I try again?
Or you're talking about the next meeting now?
Yes.
Okay, well, Doug is giving us an update on the signalized intersections. Joel has asked for the priorities on the trail clearings, if you will prioritize what you want done first. Then we have a bike and ped plan update, and then an update on the VOA or Village of Ashwaubenon strategic plan with questions for the survey. I think that's it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there's nothing else, I would welcome a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll move.
I second.
Moved in second, all those in favor say aye.
aye.
Thank you, everybody, and we will see you in March.
Have a good week.
That's
All right.
right.
Bye.